All right. So let's look at your exam review. And discount points. Somebody tell me what discount points are as just a little review.
1% of the loan amount buys the loan down, loan rate down.
Okay, so discount points by the loan rate down. And Renee said that each point costs 1% of the loan amount, right? How much does it buy the loan down? 1/8 of a percent. How much profit does the lender get every time someone buys 1 point? 1/8. So it buys it down 1/8 by giving the lender money, and the money they get raises their yield back to where it was. Because remember, that money is the interest that the lender's going to get one way or the other. It's the interest that the borrower is buying down because he wants a lower payment. Does that sort of make sense?
No, it's crazy.
It's great. It doesn't make sense to do it, but do the words make sense?
Yes.
Sort of, okay. Clauses in a note. Let's remember what those are. Clauses in a note. Tell me one. This will be on your exam, everybody, so tell me a clause in the note. Acceleration, what does that mean?
Bank has the right to ask for all the money if they wanted to, if you're behind.
If you default on the loan, the lender has a right to call the maturity date due. Default, how would someone default? What would be an example of default? Missing a payment? What else? Renee said several payments. Why'd you say several?
Because typically, if you're behind, they'll let you get caught up, but if you're like, if you get like 2 or 3 months behind, then they kind of start different processes, like acceleration could be one, maybe foreclosure.
30 days, they give you 30 days.
No, not, Andrea said they give you 30 days something. We talked about that on the installment land contract, that the seller had to give a 30-day chance for the defaulting buyer to cure it. Technically, you're in default if you miss a payment, right? And it would be up to the lender to decide what to do about it. Renee's right. After the financial crisis, lenders were trying to work around some of the issues with some of these borrowers who are in dire straits. And frankly, going to foreclosure costs the lender a lot of money too, doesn't it? So if they can work out something, that would be a good thing to do. I don't think they have to, though. Another clause would be what? Alienation clause. Thank you, Kristen. So what does alienation clause mean? What did we say the term alienate means? Separate. So separate by transferring. And so in a mortgage instrument, what would the lender be worried about transferring or separating? The debt. True. From one person to the other. Guys, we're struggling with these clauses. Let's find them in our reading because it is a good testing area. Page 409. Remember, alienate means transfer. And Kristen said separate. That's a good way to remember it also. Transfer like a loan assumption. Transfer like assignment. The lender, and Kristen also said transferring the debt, the lender doesn't want that debt transferred to someone else because the lender qualified the person originally on the debt, and they want to make sure this next person can qualify to handle it. So what loans did we say are not assumable, or which loan did we say has an alienation clause? Conventional loan. Conventional loans have an alienation clause. They are not assumable. So, which loans are assumable then? FHA, VA. Based on what? FHA and VA loans are assumable based on what?
Qualified.
They have to qualify, don't they? So the borrower, the new person, the new purchaser would have to qualify if they want to take over that loan. Okay then. Foreclosure means what?
Bank decided to sell the property, I guess, and try to get some of that money back
For what?
for you not paying the mortgage.
For the debt. It's the process of selling the property, the collateral property, to pay the debt back. And so if they're in foreclosure or pursuing it, someone did default somewhere along the way, and the lender may or may not, like Renee said, give them time to try to catch up. But it is a process of bringing it all to a conclusion by trying to get the money to repay the debt. So this would be on page 401, everybody. The process of selling the mortgage real estate to repay the debt from the proceeds of the sale. On your exam, you do have definition questions. It's not the majority of the exam, but you do have some that are definition questions. So keeping up with that would be a really good idea. And deficiency or deficiency judgment means,
Like when a property is sold and it's sold for less than what it's owed, there's a deficiency in that. And usually the bank will put a deficiency judgment on the person so that they're required to pay the money back to the.
correct. Did you all hear Yadira? She's soft-spoken. She said that if the bank goes to foreclosure and they don't receive enough to pay, excuse me, to pay, they don't receive enough that's due them, they can go to the defaulting borrower for the remainder, called a deficiency. They can seek a judgment, which it would have to go to court to get, right? What do you know about judgments? They follow the person. Person, their property, they just follow the person, don't they? All righty, good job. Short sale, somebody?
When the property sells for less than the value.
I understand what Haman said. He said, when a property sells less than the value, that's a correct statement, but it's not a complete statement. So let's have something else about that.
The bank agrees to collect less than the value.
The bank would agree to allow that to happen, and because the bank has taken the shortage, right? Haman was partially right, and see, that's an issue on test taking, isn't it? Because that would be a true answer part of it, but we talked about sometimes sellers have to bring money to closing anyway, don't they? You know, if they buy a house and then have to sell next year, they may have to bring money, and that doesn't make it a shortage. A shortage is when the borrower is in a hardship financially, and they're asking the lender to take less than what they owe. So they're upside down. Short sale would be a material fact. At the listing agent would inquire, and if this is a possibility with the owner, and it would be disclosed. It's a material fact, like I said, must be disclosed. And if an offer is written, there would be a short sale addendum attached to that, because there's a condition in there, one big one. What is it? What's the one big condition in a short sale addendum? The bank has to approve the contract, not the offer. Didn't we say the offer is presented to the owner, and the owner decides if they want to accept it or not? And they're accepting it on the condition the lien holder approves it. If there are multiple lien holders, like a second mortgage, home equity line of credit or loan, all of them would have to approve it. And imagine that if you're in second position, you're due a debt, but you're in second position or third position, why would you agree to sign off on a short sale? You're not gonna get anything because the first lien holder's taken less. There ain't gonna be anything left over. And so there would be a chance you could get something if you didn't agree to that, perhaps. Alrighty, loan types, we're gonna talk about those. We're gonna talk about truth in lending, and we're gonna talk about loan fraud today. Questions, comments? Okay, let me mention to you about Yasmin. Yasmin wants to offer a free review with for volunteers who will let her video class for an hour. She wants to review Unit 5 and have it videoed. She needs to have it videoed sent to the Real Estate Commission, her teaching in a live audience. And she offered anybody who wants to come to that. And so that would be an hour video to review Unit 5, and then she'll stay an hour to just review anything. So that would be on Wednesday, October 17th. I'm going to send this around if you want to sign up, because it would have to be, we'd have to get enough folks here. On Tuesday, the 23rd, she's going to offer 3 hours. So the first hour would be the review, and then 2 hours, first hour would be the video, I beg your pardon, and then the other 2 hours would be review. Now that's getting close to the final, so that would be good. The Wednesday one is 2:30 to 4:30. The Tuesday one is 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So I'll pass this around, and if you'd like to come to that, she'd be thankful, and appreciative. So I'll pass that around. If you're interested, just write down your name so we can give her a heads up on it. And we can pick a day.
Can you just come to one, or could you do both?
You can do both. Well, we need to know who's asking. Yeah, she'll do both, but we're trying to, just sign up for what you want to, and then we'll figure it out. Because she's open to doing them both.
Can you say what those times were?
It's coming.
Okay.
Yeah, it's coming. Okay, everybody, get out your homework. This was from 8, 9, and 10. And let's go over this. Since we've got several to go through, in the interest of time, let's let me give you the answers. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, when you talk about the mortgage, and you have to have 2 or 3 liens and a short sale, who actually takes precedence over that? In other words,
Tell me what you think.
Well-
The question Andrea is asking is, if you have a short sale and there are 2 or 3 liens, who would take precedence? And you think about it and tell me who you think.
well, I would think it would be the mortgage lender would, the very first one.
First one where?
Originator.
No,
The
wait.
original, property that actually.
How would you know it was the first one?
I don't know that.
Recorded.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, that's how.
Okay, the recording.
So that's how the liens would be paid, in the order of recordation.
So you're saying that the second and third in a short sale, in other words, they have no say-so, it's a short sale?
No, they do. All lien holders have to approve. In other words, they would have to approve of the contract if there are multiple lien holders. What I'm saying is, if they agree to the first lien holder taking less, well, there's not going to be any money for them, is what I'm
And
saying.
if they say no,
Then it can't go through. Then the first lien holder can't agree, can't do it.
Yeah.
okay, that's where I was confused.
Yeah.
I thought the very person would have, hey, we'll take this, too bad for the second and third. but that's
All
not the
lien
case.
holders have to approve it.
Oh, okay.
All lien holders, because they've got an interest in the property too, a collateral interest.
Okay.
So they would have to approve. If the second and the third don't approve, then the short sale will not go through. So what I was saying is, why would they? There's no chance of them getting any money. May not be anyway, but there might be a little slight chance. LaToya?
So if they do agree, the first
They get everything, but it's less than what they're due. Remember, they're asking for a shortage. The buyer's saying, we owe 100, but will you take 90? So they're not getting everything. They're agreeing to take what's less. They're taking less. And so if there's not enough money to even pay the first lien holder, how would there be enough money to say, pay a second or a third?
So they're all gonna lose some.
Huh?
If they agree, they're all gonna lose some of the money.
If they all agree, the first lien holder will lose some. The second or third won't get any.
Oh.
Well, guys, tell me, okay, now tell me tell me what's confusing you. A short sale is the buyer is asking the lender to take less than's due them. So that would be the first lien, well, it would be whoever's doing the, whoever is priority, let's say. Or whoever is in priority, the borrower's saying, will you take less than I owe you? It would be unusual if that would be a second or a third, I would think, but I guess it could be. You know, where they call their second mortgage and ask them. But whoever they're asking, they're saying, will you take less than what we owe you? And so if they're asking the lien holder to take less, well, they don't have enough money to pay that one person. How would they have enough money to pay anybody else?
Right, and then why would they agree?
Something like that.
Why would who agree?
The second and third lien holder
They-
agree that
they-
they're not gonna get any money.
They probably wouldn't, I would imagine.
So does it sit-
Or they're saying, you know, we're in second, third place anyway, even if there's a foreclosure, our odds of getting money are slim. So I don't know that they would agree, but they do have to agree,
But
since
it's
they
like-
have it.
It's like, okay, they did work for that person, it's like, you're getting, they just did the work for free.
Get who's working for free?
Like, if you say a lien holder, like the first person gets, because they recorded it first, but the other two people, they don't, it's like they did work for free, you're not getting anything. That's why would you agree on?
I don't know that they will agree.
You're not
I would say they probably wouldn't, would be my guess. Or they're looking at the odds of us making any money anyway are slim to none. And they might would just sign off on it. It'd be a loss to the bank, wouldn't it? And a loss is a write-off, right? So that's a risk, everybody, with being a second lien holder or a third lien holder, because you're in second position or third position, aren't you? Go back and read up on your short sale so you get a good understanding of it. It's a hardship situation where the borrower does not have the money to pay back everything they owe to their lender. Now, the lender could be the first lender or the second. It doesn't have to be the first one that they're in shortage, but typically it would be. All righty, let's go, if you will, to, did you have chapter 5, transfer title?
Back to that, taxes are above everything right now.
Real estate property taxes above everything. So when we say the first lien holder, we're talking about which mortgage is first. Everybody clear on that?
Yep.
Taxes would be first. All righty, number 1A,
Which one are you on, 5?
I'm in order, number 5. Guys, class 8, I'm just going in order. Everybody good? All right. So number 1 is A. Number 2, C. Number 3, A. Make sure you understand that you know acknowledgement means notarizing. Acknowledgement means notarized. It means witnessed or notarized or acknowledged. And we know deeds do not have to be notarized, witnessed, or acknowledged to be valid, but they do have to be recorded. Is everybody good on that? That would be the step before recordation. And we know to remind ourselves we don't have to record a deed to be valid. So why do we record? 2 reasons I can think of. What's one? Protection against third-party claims. That's the contract, right? What's the other reason?
To secure your position, if your order.
Well, that's very true too. You're securing your position. That's a true answer. You record to protect yourself. You get your place in line, so to speak. What's another reason?
Tell the public, this is mine.
Okay, counteract. Guys, this is real important. Remember we said you need to go back and read Form 2T. To record the deed means to close the transaction. So closing, according to Sales Contract Form 2T, is the final recordation. And recording the deed is one of the steps in closing. So that's why we record. All right, number 4, did you get C? 5, D-dog. 6, D-dog. 7, C. 8, A. 9, D-dog. 10, D-dog. 11, C. 12, A. 13, A. 14, B-boy. 15, C. 16, C. 17, C. 18, A. 19, D-dog. 20, C. 23, D-dog. 24, B-boy. 25, D-dog. 26, D-dog. 27, D-dog. 28, B-boy. 29, D-dog. 30, B-boy. All right, any questions before we go to the next answers? What? 30 what?
I thought 30 was
Which one was 19?
19 is D-dog.
29 was 29,
29 is D-dog.
sorry.
All righty, so who's asking? Andrew, you asking about 30?
I'm asking about 30. I thought you could go 103, 250, and put over 500.
Okay, put that in your calculator. 103, 250 divided by 500. And what'd you get?
206.5. Am I supposed to go to 207?
Excise tax, you always round up. Guys, excise tax is a transfer tax, register of deeds. You always round to the next dollar. 28 is B-boy. So remember that, everybody. That's 50 cents off, and you would like to think that wouldn't mess you up on a math problem, but the question might be just something like this. And they could have had 206.50, and somebody might have chosen that too, simply because it came up in the calculator, and you're doing it quickly, and you see it, and you pick it. So remember, excise tax, they do not take change. All right, number 6, chapter 6. Number 1, C. 2, D-dog. 3, what'd you get for 3?
See?
C, okay.
All right, wait a minute. All the following statements about restrictive covenants are correct except.
Okay,
B, boy.
because who's to say what's reasonable?
They are enforceable even though not recorded. They are not enforceable if contrary to law. They provide for a general plan for development. Let's put a hold on that. We'll look it up. Because I don't have an answer there. And let's look it up. They must be reasonable. That's true, isn't it? They are enforceable even though not recorded. That's probably true. They are not enforceable if contrary to law. That's probably true. They provide for a general plan for development. That's not true. Should be D-Dog. It's not a development plan. If they were asking about a PUD, isn't a PUD a way of development? Restrictive covenant isn't about a development plan. It's about what kind of rules are in that development, isn't it? Okay. We can still put a star and go look it up if you want to. I'll stand corrected if I'm wrong. Number 4, D-Dog. Number 5, B-Boy. 6, B-Boy. Does everybody understand what an injunction is? What is an injunction? Court order to do what?
To enforce or make the person comply.
Comply or stop doing something usually, isn't it? So let's remind you of 2 things. An injunction would be in restrictive covenant neighborhood, where someone in the neighborhood is doing something against the restrictions in the neighborhood, and anybody in that area can seek court interference by getting an injunction. So they can go to court. An injunction means stop, cease and desist, right? Stop doing what you're doing because it's against the rule. Remember, we learned that word laches. If nobody does anything about it, laches means you lose your right to do anything about it. And then that person will set a precedence in the neighborhood. Another injunction is commission. The real estate commission has a right to seek court intervention if someone, for example, is acting like a broker without a license. So the real estate commission can seek from the courts an injunction. Stop acting like a broker without a real estate license. Okay? All righty. Number what? 7, B-Boy. 8, A. 9, B-Boy, C, I beg your pardon. 10, C. 11, A. 12, C. 13, C. 14, C. 15, B as in boy. 16, B as in boy. 17, D as in dog. 18, B as in boy. 19, A. 20, B as in boy. 21, D, dog. 22, D, dog. 23, D, David. 24, D, David. And 25, A. All right, any questions? Guys, these 2 units, Unit 5 and Unit 6, they are pretty straightforward units as far as, I think, what you might will see on a test question. So these are good questions, I think, to prepare you about these units. Yes, ma'am.
I got mixed up over a couple. Can you go back over 12?
12.
Yeah, 12 sections.
Building codes require which of the following? And so, what confused you on number 12?
No, I mixed up the letters you called out.
Oh, C.
Yeah,
CC.
okay, 13 was,
13 was C.
okay.
8,
Huh?
8, number 8.
Number 8, A. The answer, D, dog. All right, let's go to class 9. And let's look at the, first one says Unit 7-8 pop quiz. Is that what you guys have? All righty, so let's look at it. Actually, let's take a minute. These would be good if somebody wants to volunteer. We'll read one and then just give me the answer. So, number one, somebody. This would be a good one to read out loud, these.
I'll read the ones that Sharon.
Yeah, Sharon. And just read the correct answer.
Oh, she must sign.
Read the question.
Okay, you just said you.
All right, let's rewind. I just said, okay, I said it in two parts, that's true. Read the question and just the correct answer.
Sharon is a buyer looking for a home. She knows Tim, a buyer agent, but is not ready to sign any agreement with him. She is pretty sure she will work with him exclusively, but wants to look at a few houses first. Which statement best describe her situation? I chose B. She must sign a buyer agency agreement before she makes the first offer.
Everybody good? B boy. Number two, volunteers. Okay, Andrea.
What form of agency exists under the usual real estate listing contract? I put special.
Special, B boy. Good job, you two. What about number three? Yes, sir, ma'am.
Agency can be terminated by, it's a mutual agreement of the parties and confusion of the objectives, so C both.
C both. Everybody good? What is agency, everyone? If you had to put it in one word, what would you say? Relationship. That's a good word. What's another word? What about employment? Isn't it an employment relationship? Agency is a relationship. I like that word. It's a fiduciary. But when we go into agency, we're signing an employment contract. So mutually, you can depart with each other, can't you? Just like in any job. And then when you do the job, it's complete. Number four, somebody volunteer. Renee?
Bob Broker is big of XYZ Realty. He listed Mr. Smith's property. Sue is a provisional broker with XYZ, and she has been representing a buyer who now wants to buy Bob Broker's listing. XYZ offers all forms of agency. Which best describes Sue? C, dual agent.
Dual agent?
Yes.
Very good. Why did you not put designated?
Because, first of all, the bid can't go against the provisional and designated, and then she wasn't assigned to him.
Okay, let's don't get hung up on the assignment or the appointment of an agent. Did I say to you all, when you go out and get a listing or you go out and get a buyer's agreement, that person is really thinking they hired you, aren't they? You're the one that went out there and prospected for it, and you're like initially assigned to them. That you would only have to be replaced or the BIC would have to appoint someone else if there was a reason to get you out of there. So the BIC and the PB can stay in dual. Did anybody get stumped on that? They can stay in dual because why? Why can they stay in dual?
Because they're both in the same firm.
Well, they're same firm, that's dual, true, good.
Because they're not going against each other.
Because they're not pitted against each other. They're neutral in dual. And so neutral in dual, you're doing what the clients want you to do, and so you're just, you're neutral. You're not advising. The designated, Renee is exactly right. The BIC cannot be designated against the PB. Somebody would have to be replaced by a broker, by a non-provisional. What about number 5, someone? Volunteers.
An agent
Okay.
is working with Bob Buyer and knows that Bob will pay the asking price of a property listed with her firm. She can keep this confidential if she is a neither dual agent or seller's agent, seller's sub-agent. If she was the buyer's agent, she could keep it confidential.
What about A? If they're in dual, it would have to be confidential. Because in A, remember, you're representing both clients, and If you're representing both clients at the same time and you're neutral, you can't share any confidential. But you know what? When you read it out loud and when you answered the way you did, I got to thinking, that makes sense the way you said it. But it is A. If they go into dual, then everybody's neutral and the confidences are kept confidential. Number 6, someone volunteer, please.
The licensee employed by a real estate broker to show and sell property listed with the broker is best described as an agent of the broker and sub-agent for the principal.
Is everybody good on that? A, an agent of the broker and a sub-agent for the principal. Remind yourself, you're only an agent to your firm, only technically one time. That's when you're called an agent. So let's say it a different way. You are never a sub-agent to your own company. You are an agent to an agent. Remember we said that? And you would go into sub to any other client or anyone you represent. Number 7, someone?
Consideration can be both.
Both. Good job. Kristen said it can be money. It can be a promise. It can be action, everybody. Something of value, money, promise, action. 8, someone?
Which of the following listings are legal in North Carolina? And I put C, both, even though net is not encouraged.
Very good. Libba said both are legal, even though net is not encouraged. Because that's the one that, what? Why isn't it encouraged? What's up with that one?
Because the agent benefits by the excess that's remaining, and so it's hard to be true to your client when you're looking out for your own pocketbook.
That's right. So the agent could benefit, by asking way too much for the property and getting that excess over what the seller says they bottom line need, and so it's frowned upon. Number 9, someone?
An owner of a property who employs more than one listing broker at the same time has entered into an open listing.
Very good. Opal said open listing. Remind yourself, I believe I mentioned to you that this is not just a free-for-all. It's not like fair game. Anybody run, go sell it, and I'll pay you. It is a case where the seller says, I'm choosing company A and B and C. And if one of you sell it, or through your endeavors through MLS, somebody co-brokers, we will pay the commission. If I sell it as an owner, I don't pay anybody. Everybody good? Seller competes. I would also remind myself that that's non-exclusive. It has to be non-exclusive if they're choosing more than one firm. Is that right? I mean, you understand? All right, last one, number 10. Somebody?
The real estate listing contract is an employment contract between the property owner and a real estate broker. Contracts of this nature must be in writing.
10 and how about D-Dog? Can't.
Automatic renewal clause.
Yeah. A real estate listing contract is employment. It cannot contain. Now, if you look at that real quickly, you see the automatic renewal, and you might not have picked it for that reason, but the word is cannot. Is everybody good on that? And must be in writing. Why don't you go ahead and make a note? We haven't talked about this yet, but a lot of students love to go back and read their quizzes before their final. There is one agency agreement that will automatically renew. We haven't talked about it, but it's a property management agreement. So we will discuss that in Unit 12, and it can automatically renew as long as either party has a right to say, I don't want it to renew, or give notice that we don't want it to. It's the only one, everybody. All right, any comments or questions?
You said property management agency is the only one that can automatically renew.
Yes, ma'am. Can somebody give me a time, since my clock's broken?
43.
What is it?
943.
9:43. All right, let's do a couple more. We'll take our first break. So you have this quiz with just kind of asking you questions. I don't see too many written on, so tell me if you did it or not. Maybe I need to collect the homework periodically. Somebody in the evaluation said I ought to do that. I think I'm going to change my ways. Well, then let's put a hold on this because you guys need to work on this. Now, one good way is to go to your sales contract and look at it. Is everybody with me? Maybe we'll see. I don't know if we'll have time today, but maybe we can have you group out on that and talk about it because we've had the lecture now, so you ought to be able to do that. Let's go then to class 10. And I gave you your solutions for your math. And the quiz is called Agency and Contract Quiz. So let me give you the answers in the interest of time. And everybody, if you have a question, make sure that you ask me. And what I'll do is I'll just take one page at a time since it's agency. If you have any questions, be sure to ask. Number 1, for a real estate agency relationship to be enforceable, which is not required, be boy. Number 2, a broker may execute a contract on behalf of his or her principal when D dog. An attorney, in fact, everyone, is like a assigned power of attorney. Number 3, even though the BIC hires a PB as an independent contractor, the BIC is responsible for C. When describing the particulars about a property, the agent does not disclose a capital improvement project that's been approved that would result in a special assessment in the future. The broker has C, committed fraud. Guys, that would be what we would call omission. So that came up in Unit 7 when we talk about misrepresentation and omission is fraudulent. Because if it's talking about a special assessment in the near future, that might be what we would call proposed special assessment. And the contract says the buyer has to pay it if it comes up, right? And so they need to know it is a material fact. 5, Chris Salvano is the broker hired to sell Aaron's house. Chris shows the house to the Martins who want to make an offer. At this point, what duty does he owe the Martins? How many of you put B-boy? Because the Martins are customers. Good job. They're customers. Number 6, obligation of protecting any deposit entrusted to the agent is an example of C, accounting. And so this is your acronym OLDCAR. You know, the duties of the agent, which would be the firm. 7, sales contract contains a clause stating the buyer's property in another county must sell or close and fund by a certain date, or the buyer can terminate and get their money back. This would be, what'd you put? C, contingency. Contingency, everyone, is another way to say conditional. So this is conditional, and there's a contingency sale addendum that if the buyer wanted to attach it, they could. It's highly recommended that they would because it makes the contract conditional on that. Number 8, escrow monies can be defined as, and D-dog would be the best answer there. A promissory note means I owe you, and a promise, a promise to pay. 9, consideration to bind a contract may be in the form of C. Consideration is something of value, money, action, promise. Broker Murphy has finalized the negotiation on his listing. He received earnest money of $5,000. He must, B-boy, put the check in the company's escrow account. Now, I'm sure that we talked about this, and I'm sure Yasmin did, that lots of firms are not handling escrow anymore. They're having their attorney or the buyer's closing attorney handle the trust account. So wherever, that would be the best answer though. If the company has a trust account, it would go there. Real estate agent Gonzalez is listing a property to determine a range of value for an asking price. The agent will use which of the following? Now you need to make a note here. The answer on this question is D-Dog. But in your reading, the commission fairly recently said that BPO and CMA could be used interchangeably. So you would not have a question like this that would be, technically, it's not a current question. So why don't you put in your notes that either one, a BPO or CMA, would be a correct answer, but on your final or your state exam, they wouldn't give you a question like this. They would either have one or the other, or they would say BPO, CMA, both or neither. So they're the same according to your reading. Is everybody good on that? All righty. Number 12. A broker obtains an exclusive listing. Until the broker fulfills the contract, it is executory, in progress, or process. 13, when representing a buyer in a real estate transaction, the agent must disclose to the seller all of the following except A, the buyer's motivation. Couldn't that harm the buyer? Okay. 14, licensed broker working for a subdivision is holding open house. A potential buyer wants to make a deposit to reserve a lot in phase 3. The preliminary plat for phase 3 is posted. However, it has not been approved or recorded. The agent may, what'd you guys put? B boy. Good question for a test. Okay, so those of you who missed it, what's up?
I thought that if the provisional one was done, they could collect money on it, they just couldn't transfer title.
It's not done. It hadn't been approved. The preliminary has not been approved.
I got you.
So let's go back to what Kim's saying.
But
If,
Preliminary has been approved,
But
not
it
the
can be
final.
posted without being approved, it just seems like if it's
Yeah.
posted, it's approved.
no, it's, you're posting it, they can post the what they're working on, and the preliminary, it would have to go through the process of approval, but no, it would be known that it's not approved. Because if it's been approved, it would say plat approved on the plat somewhere, or at the very least, the developer would, or the agent on duty would tell you. If there is preliminary plat approval, they could collect an offer and even go into contract with monies, so long as the buyer could get out of the contract, if there's something comes up later that they didn't know.
Gosh, I just assumed since this is a preliminary plat that it had been approved.
But it says not, has not been approved.
Well,
Preliminary, yeah, so it's-
The plat has not been approved and
the plat
recorded.
has not been approved, but there's a preliminary plat that has been approved.
I'm reading it has not been approved, however. Don't assume, you know what that word means. All right, let's move on. 15, which of the following acts would require a license to practice law? Now, guys, the intention of this question, the answer is D-Dog. Hey, Steve. The intention of the question is D-Dog, but technically anybody can go over to the courthouse, but the way that they've worded it, searching titles, you know, that's giving you the idea, title search for something else. Preparing an abstract, definitely would have to be a lawyer. Giving an opinion, definitely would have to be a lawyer. So that gives me the clue. I know two are right, so it would have to be all of the above. 16, the residential property disclosure statement is required in the sale of most residential property. One exclusion would be, what'd you guys put? Answer would be A. Let's talk about this. Guys, let's take a minute and talk about it. I was having this discussion with my son. Remember I told you he's gone into the business? And we were talking about prospecting for sale by owners and kind of making a strategy, you know, just talking, brainstorming. And I said to him, well, when you meet a for sale by owner, you could bring up this residential property disclosure statement. All owners of residential property, guys, this is a state mandate. It's not a license rule. All owners of property residential is 1 to 4 family dwelling. So anything over 4 is not residential. So that's why that one's kicked out. So that would be a good icebreaker, everybody, to say this is a form that all property owners have to fill out and give to the would-be buyer before they make an offer, or what? They have 3 days to back out from the contract date, or whenever they receive it, if they do, whichever comes first. Alrighty, let's go on. 17, broker Bryant deposited a deposit into his own bank account and later transferred the money to the owner's client trust. Broker Miller deposited the security deposit into her own bank and used the money to pay personal obligations. Which of the following is true? And it's C. Bryant is guilty of commingling and Miller is guilty of both. Commingling is mixing up monies of others with yours. Conversion means spending it. Kind of like embezzling, if you want to think about it that way. 18, Ken's house is for sale by owner. Robert Hall falls in love with it during an open house, tells Ken he'll pay the full asking price, and promises to send Ken an earnest money check. Ken accepts the offer. The contract between them is unenforceable. A seller principal asks his agent, a PB, to complete a task in a specific manner that is illegal. The big disagrees and instructs the PB to handle it differently. Who does the PB follow?
B-boy.
Huh?
B-boy.
The broker in charge, B-boy. Which of the following terms best describes the parties to a purchase contract? What'd you put?
C.
How about B-boy, vendor, vendee? When we go into a sales contract, guys, I can take you right to the page where that is. Let's find it. Because some of you are looking like, what is that? So let's go find it. It would be in Unit 10. Let's just see. Maybe page 299. Second paragraph.
What's the page? I'm sorry.
299. Vendor, vendee. The terms grantor, grantee would be in what contract?
Title.
The title, which is the deed. Guys, I'm going to call the deed a contract of sorts, isn't it? It's a conveyance. All righty, 21. Agent Luke represented Daniel in the purchase of a tract of land owned by Perry. Perry did not have his property listed, but agreed to pay Locke's commission. What is the proper description of the agency? And what did you guys put?
Well, the names changed, so it confused me.
A. Daniel is the client. Perry is the customer. 22, broker Peter enlisted Byron's house, for $395. Byron is very anxious to sell and must close within 60 days. Peter showed the property to a prospective buyer and told the buyer he can most likely get the property for $150,000 below the asking price. What's the answer here? C. He violated his fiduciary duties. Would he violate if he was in dual agency? Would that be a violation?
Yes.
Yes. Would that be a violation if he was in dual designated? Yes, because he knows it, and he would have to be replaced. Who was asking? Renee, you said because somebody was not appointed. If this were going to go into dual designated, if it went that way, if there were clients, then because Peter has this information that the seller is desperate like that and might would take less, he would not be able to flow out of dual. He would have to be replaced because you can never give confidential about a client that you learn before the dual designated would happen. So 23, which of the following is risky and open to fraudulent dealings? D-Dog, net. The real estate contracts and forms used by realtors are, how about B-Boy? Everybody, this is a good question. You'll see something. These are good quiz questions right here. The commission does not create these forms. They're created by the North Carolina Association of Realtors and the North Carolina Bar Association, not the Real Estate Commission. Don't beat yourself up too bad on that, but just make note of it. Lots of students get that confused. It's not a real estate commission form. And 25, the buyer has been held to be in default. If the buyer and seller had not agreed on liquidated damages, the seller could, B-Boy, sue for compensatory. All right, everybody. So you go back and look over that fill in the blank one. I would look at my sales contract to help you with that. And let's go ahead and take our break.
There's a back for that.
Oh, was there a back? Oh, gosh, I missed it myself. Oh, dear. All right, y'all tell me. Let's look. Well, there were solutions to it.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Number 26, a buyer makes an offer to purchase. Let me write this down, I forgot. Thank you, Yadira. And specifies that the owner accept or reject within 48 hours. Before hearing back from the owner, the buyer locates a more attractive property and withdraws the offer. Is the buyer legally entitled to withdrawal? Yes. Did you get A? 27, the IRS require, who said no? Did ya?
I couldn't figure that one out.
Well, this is that addendum. Did we talk about that addendum where I mentioned to you that the buyer's basically saying take it or leave it? Well, they're not saying we'll wait. They're saying we're giving you that amount of time to let us know if you're taking it or not. Any offer, this is a good time to remind yourself, any offer can be withdrawn at any time prior to the communication of acceptance. All right, 27, IRS requires an independent contractor to be how about paid on the basis of, yes, A, thank you. That's commission, isn't it? Independent contractors are not employees. Broker in charge has a principal at, it should be as, shouldn't it? Isn't that a broker in charge has a principal, oh, okay. Has a principal she turns over to a PB. Which of the following statements is true? The provisional, how about D-Dog? The BIC still is in fiduciary, but so is the PB. And 29, broker Gail listed a home with a history of roof leaks. After the seller accepted an offer, the buyers had the home inspected. After the inspection, but before closing, the roof leaked again and the sellers fixed it again. Broker Gail did not reveal this fact to the buyer. A sounds good to me. She omitted it, right? Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you for reminding me of that one. Take 10.